Hey there, y'all. We are Between Two Teeth. I'm Bobby. This is Steph, and thank you for joining us. I got a quick one today. I'm going to ask you a question. You ready for a question?
Not at all, but go for it.
Who are you becoming? She had no idea I was going to ask this question.
So that's a great question.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm going to stall here for a second. Honestly, the first thing that popped into my mind is some of the books that are, I think, one of the, I have not read this book, and not to make it political, but I think it was Becoming Michelle Obama. That jumped into my mind immediately when you asked that question. So in the sense of who are you becoming, what I feel like you're trying to rephrase that in my brain.
I heard it on a podcast. It was actually
Who are you
Rich Roll
becoming?
Podcast.
I think you're trying to, maybe it's a check-in question to see where are you at in your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess where I'm at in my journey is trying to figure out so I've been talking with people about this. I mean, there's a whole thing on where I'm at right now. And part of where I'm at is trying to transition from, or trying to balance out this, okay, I'll just jump into it, this crusade. So when I was...
Crusade?
Yeah, so trying to figure out how did I get right here and where am I going to go next? Part of... I hate the question when people ask me, hey, what do you like? And it actually frustrates me because I'm like, part of me, the reason it's frustrating is I have no idea what I want or like. And when you reflect on that, it's like, well, how do people that are my age answer that question so well? How do they know themselves so well?
No.
And how do I
know what you like?
Yeah, and that's why it's frustrating, and not necessarily, and here's why.
You don't like questions. When
no,
I ask
love
you questions, you go,
and you're not.
I don't like the question.
Well, some of your questions aren't good.
Yeah.
This one's a good question. So when I think about crusades, my crusade as a little kiddo, I remember my dad my mom wanted me to do dishes in my house growing up. My parents didn't want to pay us an allowance. They expected you just to do the chores. There wasn't a transaction until we turned about, I'd say 11 or 12 years old. And I started to notice what my dad wanted to pay my brother for and what I was offered money for. I didn't like the idea that I was only offered money to do the dishes. And my brother was offered money to mow the lawn outside. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, wait a minute. The lawn only needs to be mowed about maybe once every 2 weeks, but dishes are every day. And there wasn't this like, we'll pay you more. There was just a flat rate at my house. It was just the chores rate. Wow. And so I looked at my mom. I was so frustrated. I'm like, Mom, I don't get it. Why don't I get an opportunity to do what I consider is an easier job? I feel like I'm physically fit enough to mow the lawn. It was a push mower. I think I'm going to be just fine. I'll wear safety goggles. I don't know what we're worried about.
Wear safety goggles.
I didn't know what we were worried about. And my mom was like, and I said, let Michael come in here and do the dishes. This stuff's hard. And I was like, and it's a grind. It's gross, actually. If you look at food on a plate, it just grosses me out. And I was like, I just don't want to do dishes, Mom. And she goes, well, I don't think that's a possibility. I go, what do you mean? She's like, well, your dad believes in women's work. And I look at her as like I must have been 10 or 12. I don't know
Remember,
how old I was.
Your dad's one of our subscribers. So.
And I was like, Mom, Dad doesn't believe in women's work. That's ridiculous. Get out of here. You got to be kidding me. She laughed harder than I've ever seen her laugh before. And she just looked at me with these knowing eyes. And it was a joke that I'm like, someone tell me what the punchline is because I don't get it. Anyway, I go outside and she goes, go ask your father and all will be revealed. And I go, all right. So confidently, with all the confidence in the world, because in my mind, this was a very clear answer. And no way, how could anybody in the world ever think that women and men had certain roles? It was beyond me. I couldn't think as a 12-year-old kid that even existed. So I go out and confidently say, Dad, can you believe what Mom just told me? She says you believe in women's work. How funny is that? Let's laugh over that. And he looked at me he's like, and he was kind of...
no laughter.
It was no laugh. There was no laughter. And he couldn't help but say, yeah, I do believe in women's work. Now, part of him was joking, I think. And then part of him was being very serious. There's always a little truth in a joke. And I looked at him bewildered. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And
that was a sentinel moment in your life.
Well, probably. I'm sure some psychologists would say that. But I couldn't, couldn't get my head wrapped around that my dad really believed that human beings were going to be better at a job or more suited for a job just because of their sex. And I couldn't believe it. And so I think for me, growing up, a lot of whether it was liking football, liking sports, one, I just naturally really enjoy those things. But also, I'm kind of on this crusade in a way to show that, hey, like, women can like things that guys like and genuinely like them and enjoy them, whether it's soccer or driving a stick shift car, liking engines,
I would
liking
expect
motorcycles.
a comment like that out of a motorcycling hockey player.
Yeah,
like
playing hockey, liking fishing, like all of these things. Sorry, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Sorry. So to get back to your same question, who are you becoming?
Who are you becoming?
Right. So I have to give you but I've
answer the question.
I've been on a crusade since I was a kiddo.
Should you call it a journey?
It's a crusade in the it's a crusade because there's some negativity to a crusade. It's an intense word.
So,
and you're cutting me off from my flow here.
No, so talk to me about the negativity.
So with
the challenge.
Not anytime, but part of being on a crusade is you're on a crusade for a cause. You believe in this cause. For me, it's that guys and gals, for the most part, can do what they want, not what society expects them to do. And so when you're on a crusade and your life is lived around a cause, it's all about promoting the cause. It doesn't matter what you want. It's about the cause. And as a little kid, I had a cause. I mean, tell me a 12-year-old who's on a mission. And that was my mission in life. And I'm just kind of, reflecting on it, kind of having a deeper understanding of it now. So when you ask me who I'm becoming, right now, I haven't given up on that cause, but I've also understood that you got to know who you are too. It's okay to have a cause, but it's okay to get in touch with yourself too. Don't be afraid to take a step back from the cause to figure out, well, what do you like? Because I think both of those things are important. The relationship with yourself is as important as your relationship with your purpose.
Do you know who you are?
No, I don't, but I'm learning. Like, I think that's all you can ask for, right? And who we are changes too. I'm learning that. And part of figuring out who you are is sometimes you can't really do that with other people. You got to do that on your own. I hate being alone. I love hanging out with people. I much rather be with somebody else than be in a kind of a dark area by myself. So I just got a new place recently and I love this place. And it's the first safe space that I've had that I actually have enjoyed being in and being a part of. So it's kind of cultivated this sense of, hey, it's okay to hang out with yourself, and just kind of figure out what do you like. Because if you're around other people, especially if you're an empath or empathetic, you're always going to be thinking and asking yourself, well, what do they want to do? Does it align with my cause? And if some of those things align, then what you want and what you like kind of gets left. So when you say, who are you becoming? That's a long-winded way to say right now, I'm trying to balance this child who is on a cause, who has been driven since very young age to have this, crusade of equality. And I'm balancing that with who am I as a human, as an individual that is separate from that cause.
Does the crusade, using your words, does it bring you joy and fulfillment?
Yes.
Or does it seem more like work?
Of course, it seems like work some days. Some days I want to give up on it completely because of just the crazy inequalities that I perceive today. It's not necessarily everybody's truth though. It's just my truth. And at the end of the day, I think you have to balance. The reason I use the word crusade is because it's not noble enough to be a cause. A crusade is what someone young goes on because they don't understand the complexities of having a cause. Having a cause means it's not personal. A cause isn't personal. A crusade is. And so I'm trying to separate this important cause of kind of equality with it really becoming a crusade and being defined by it. You want to be defined by your own self. Personal things, keep it personal, keep it individual. But when you step into the shoes of your cause, you got to take away the individual and look at it globally. What is this? What are you translating? What are you communicating? What is your cause? So when you think of important people in our culture and history that have had a true cause, they've separated their personal strife from it, and they've risen to something beyond themselves. So right now I'm stuck in a crusade. What I'm hoping to become is a cause.
I'm more of a journey. I'd like to be a journeyman.
It's tough to have a.
It's a little more pleasant.
Yes, it's tough to be. It's tough to have it's tough to have a drive as a kiddo. It's a blessing and a curse. And the curse comes as if you can't turn it off. If you don't know how to separate individuality from your cause, then it's always going to be a crusade, and there's going to be so much emotion tied to it. You don't want that.
I do not like that component at all. I think you should look at life objectively, and emotion should never, ever come into the equation.
I disagree with that.
I'm being funny.
I know.
I'm trying to be funny. but controlling emotion, Crusaders, some did well in history and some did really.
Crusaders tend to die.
They tend to die. I was trying to be nice about it, but
and people with a cause sometimes do. But I feel as though what I'm trying to communicate is there is this concept of a higher cause. I'm not talking about like a higher power, but there's a cause and a purpose beyond just yourself and your own individuality. But it's important, in at least my development, to separate the two because they've always been intertwined.
So what I hear you saying, who are you becoming? You're on a crusade.
I'm becoming an individual, but I'm also not, I don't want to give up on my cause because I've always thought it worthy. It's been my life's work, to be completely honest.
And you've always had childlike wonderment.
Who starts their life's work, by the way, at 12? Like, I don't know. Like Mozart? I don't know. Like, it's just... It's
Did you
crazy.
say Mozart?
And that's someone who's never looked at music or sheet music.
Isn't it Mozart?
It probably is.
The ending.
But the point is that it's super special to have a cause and to have a purpose like that young, and you can't even define it when you're that young. You're trying to figure out. You don't even, I don't know, when you're that young, you don't even put two and two together. It's just a feel. And you just feel driven and compelled in a way you've never felt driven before. And when you step out of this big tidal wave and look around, you're like, holy crap, how did 20 years pass? And I have been fixated on this.
All right, I'm going to give you some advice that you're not going to want to hear. You ready for it?
Well, one day when we talk about your crusade.
No, I don't have
and
a
you
crusade.
Also have a crusade.
I don't.
You're just not being authentic and genuine.
I don't have. Well, I'm not going to call it a crusade. And
are you saying you don't have a cause? You don't strike me as a rebel without a cause. Because you're different. And I know you've got a cause, and I know you've got a purpose, and I know it's been instilled in you. Your life's work is. I think I can see your life's work. But I don't think
What do you think it is?
I don't know. It's something, it's personal. You got to talk about it. I can't talk about it. But I know you, and I think that you have, where we are very different, but where we are similar, I think, is that kind of defining moment in childhood where you decided to follow your purpose. And I think maybe you're trying to figure out what that is. Maybe you figured it out a long time ago. But I think when you start getting comfortable talking about it, you're going to help a lot of people.
Give me a hint. Because I look at and you haven't asked me the question. I was waiting for you to
Who are you becoming?
Thank you.
Who are you becoming?
I don't know.
I literally answered that at the very 20 seconds, and that was apparently an unacceptable answer.
I think, well, you didn't know the question was coming. So
you're too cool for school. I love discovering things about myself. It's one of my favorite things because I'm a kid at a candy shop. I'm discovering things about myself that people discover when they're 16. And then I'm just like, oh my
That's
gosh.
that childlike wonderment.
Yeah, that's the childlike wonderment, because what most people don't go on is a crusade when they're that young.
I saw a video of you when you were young and you were leading around a bunch of other young people, and the way you walked and moved your legs, I'm like,
maybe it was
on a crusade.
Yeah, maybe it was on a defining moment but that video he's referencing was when I was about I might have been
8.
Yeah, I was gonna say 5 or 6.
So back to who am I becoming?
Yeah, who are you becoming?
I don't know.
Who's Bobby becoming?
I don't know. I know. Well, so what I will say...
It's okay not to know who you're becoming, but it's more important to know where you've been.
Yes, and to really take a look at where you've been. I think I'm a collection of experiences, as we all are. I've tried to learn from experiences. I have failed in beautifully intense ways that can make or break a person. And it was insightful for me to figure out my purpose. And we've talked a bunch about that. But as far as who am I becoming?
Can you remind us of your purpose?
Yes. This is where sometimes I mess it up. That's why you're pushing me on it. My purpose is to push myself and others to fully live, laugh, and love. I've struggled with push lately. A lot of people don't like to be pushed. Who knew? Part of me doing cold plunges and cold showers is I needed to push myself physically, and it was a mental thing. It's actually not that hard to take a cold shower or to jump in a swimming pool. I'm going to do it today, and it's like...
Oh, man, I disagree. It's challenging if you don't have the right mindset.
If you don't have the right mindset, and it
can be traumatizing, actually, if you don't enter it with the right mindset. And you got to be careful with that. And this is something that I learned when I was pushing myself from a kid way too hard. And you can absolutely traumatize yourself. So if I go and try to cold plunge every day, that's what I'm going to do, because my mind's not geared for that type of challenge right now, it'd be traumatizing to me. And I don't want to be traumatized. But for you
use such
works.
Intense words.
Because that's what it is.
I'm at a point where I'm trying to,
you want to be mellow.
I want to be mellow. I want to be mellow. There's times that I'm not mellow, and I got to chill. So here's what was the original question? Who are you becoming? I'm becoming someone who wants to follow the path that the universe is taking me on. And
Can I call you out on this just a little bit? No, this is someone who wants, I do think you want to do that, but I think you struggle with that. Because the universe, you don't like where the universe takes you sometimes. And and as long as you like where it's taking you, you're okay with it. But the minute it takes you in a direction you don't like, you course correct to get back to that comfort zone.
Well, I do little minor adjustments.
Sorry I'm being harsh on you, but it's so true.
I'd expect nothing less out of someone who's on a crusade.
Right, yeah. So part of I realize that you really do want to go in the direction the universe takes you. It sounds like a super cool, chill thing to say. I feel like the only thing missing when you say that is a surfboard under your arm and a California wave or beach behind you. But the reality is that we were talking about this the other day, is people who have taken sabbaticals. It's really, and I know you stepped away and you did a month at Harvard. That was phenomenal. But it is tough to kind of go in the direction. I thought when you stepped away to do that month at Harvard, I thought that was you truly living out what you say when you're like, yeah, I want to go where the universe is taking me, and I feel called to do this and be around these people. Now, yeah, I mean, I think that's living it out.
Part of that was a public policy fellowship just so I could work on something with dental licensure, which was a passion of mine that started 25 years.
Yeah, so that's part of your...
And
it's part of your cause.
At the end of that time period, I'm like, I am burned out.
You were a much better... You always provide care at the top quality, but you were a much better clinician. I don't know how to differentiate the two when you came back.
I was in a better headspace.
You're in a much better headspace. You were better with patients.
I realized I was burned out. I needed to do some self-care things. I needed to work out every day. One of the chums there actually got me on the book by James Clear, I think. Habits or Atomic Habits. That's what it was. I'm like, I need to do some form of exercise every single day. And that helped me get in a better headspace, helped me feel better physically and mentally.
And I know, and I love that. And I wanted to touch one more thing as we talk about who are we becoming. And kind of in step with this is I want to write something on the fallacy of patience. And what I mean by that, because I'm looking at your face right now, what I mean by that is people have told me to be patient my whole life. And I so dislike that. I'm not saying there's not any, there's not value in that adage, if that's what it is, or value in that piece of advice. But here's how it's translated in my head. Is when someone tells me to be patient, I'm like, wait, like, instead of telling me to be patient, tell me the steps, like the daily steps you want me to take. Again, this is me searching for those clear expectations. I'm like, tell me how to, where I want to go. So why are you telling me to wait? Instead, tell me how to get there quicker.
So here's the problem. One, it's hard to tell a crusader to be patient.
Right, because they want to go off to the crusade.
Crusader's on a crusade, and they're like,
because they feel so strongly and passionately about where they know they want to be that it's super to, right, but gosh, I don't want to join the line that's going 2 miles an hour towards maybe getting there.
Sometimes you have to.
Right, assuming though that you're working, I'm okay getting 10% better every day, but I'm not okay with just hanging out and knowing
10%
that
every day.
I'm not okay with just getting in line and waiting.
Are you okay with getting 1% better a year?
That's a real slow growth. I don't think companies would be okay with that. I don't think that did they talk about that in your executive leadership program? Is 1% a year growth? Is that good? Does anyone think that's good? I think, 1% growth a year. I mean, gosh, it's out of 100, right? Are we going to take one step forward every 100 seconds?
All I'm saying.
I'm cool with about 10% growth every year. I think that's a reasonable number. It beats the stock market. Like, I think that's a reasonable thing to look at.
And who am I becoming? I'm someone that wants to continually grow. You and I are very different in many ways, but I think that is certainly the one spot where we're very, very similar. We want to grow, and we want to do unique, different things to help with growth.
And to clarify, I am okay being patient. And one thing I've learned at when you're trying to figure out...
No, that's a lie.
No, I am okay with patience if it means that there is something tangible. You're doing something every day.
You can't even say that in a nice, easy way.
You're doing something every day that you're working towards your goal. And honestly, here's the secret.
Yeah, what's the secret?
Here's the secret. If you're on a crusade and your goal is whatever at the end of this thing, if you don't choose the results, instead choose the daily activities that you're okay with. Because otherwise, you're never going to get there because you're going to get burnt out. We did a clip on resilience, and resilience is less about enduring and more about the recovery. Yes. You've got to enjoy the ebb and the flow of the process. So that's where patience comes in. And I am cool with that patience. I am cool with the recovery aspect a lot more so than I have been in the past. But man, what I don't like is this offhanded, be patient. And that's the advice that you give somebody. And I get it, but at the same time, instead, maybe a better piece of advice for someone who's very driven. And I'm kind of speaking to you here specifically. I'm not trying to call out anybody, but I'm just saying, you tell me to be patient all the time. And what a better piece of advice might be is figure out what you got to do, little things every day. Get the little things right, and the big things will happen. But guide me on the little things then. Don't brush me aside with be patient, this big enigma. Okay, like they tell people in the grocery line to be patient. Or like, if you're in line, that's when they tell you to be patient.
Maybe advising.
Who wants to stay in line?
Minor.
I want to tell me how I'm going to pick the right grocery line. Tell me that. Tell me where the self-checkout is.
Well, any closing thoughts on?
I love the question, who are you becoming? I think it's important to ask people, who are they becoming? Who are their role models? Who are their mentors? What are their goals? What do they enjoy doing every day? What would they be able to do if you knew you weren't going to be able to fail? These are questions that people don't ask themselves enough.
And I think it's certainly okay to answer, who are you becoming, and say, I don't know.
And be wary of crusades. They will get you very far, but they'll also get you killed.
On that note, thanks for joining us. If you like what we're talking about, please hit the subscribe.